Okay. Good morning. So you can, I hope our students will enjoy your lecture.
Okay, sir. Okay. So let us start, sir.
Please introduce our beloved guest and speaker of this session. Okay, please carry.
Okay. So good morning everyone. I warmly welcome Mr. Raviraj Singh, our eminent speaker for this session, Dean Faculty Welfare IST Shivpur, Professor Prashanta Kumar Nodri, all the faculty members, the staff members and students, especially the first year students attending the fourth day of Induction Cum Orientation Program 2021 of IIST Shivpur. I am once again Dr. Madhumita Roy, Assistant Professor in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. I will be moderating the session where our eminent speaker, Mr. Singh, will be addressing our dear students. So let us start without any delay. But before Mr. Singh starts his talk, let me give an overview of his notable professional achievements. Raviraj Singh is a powerful motivational speaker and inspirer of the youth. He has delivered a series of lectures in more than 200 renowned institutions of the country, including IIT Kanpur, MNIT Allahabad, different centers of Ramakrishna Mission and Mott, Tata Agricultural Research Institute Aligarh, Madras University, Allahabad University, Rotary Club, it's endless. He is a staunch devotee of Swami Vivekananda and a devoted follower of Swamiji's philosophy. Additionally, he has deep insight into Indian philosophy, yoga and Vedanta. He is an advocate in Allahabad High Court. Mr. Singh speaks on Swami Vivekananda, personality development, human excellence, life management, stress management, self-improvement, character building, mind management, Vedanta philosophy, motivation, leadership quality, etc. Today, Mr. Singh will be speaking on the topic Karma Yoga and Character Building. At the end of the talk, I will take a few questions from the students and would request Dr. Singh to kindly address them for their benefit. Now I request Dr. Singh to kindly to over to you, sir.
Respected Director P.K. Chakravarti, sir, and respected P.K. Nandi, sir, and respected faculty members and dear students. The topic of my talk is Karma Yoga and Character Building. First of all, let us understand there are four kinds of people in society. The first kind is action-oriented people. They can't sit quiet. They are not introvert. They always want something to do. So the first type of people is action-oriented people. The second type is emotional personalities, emotional people. The third one is introvert people. And the fourth category is intellectual people. So those who are action oriented, for such people, Karma Yoga is prescribed in our scriptures. Those who are having emotional personality, for them Bhakti Yoga is prescribed in our scriptures. And those who are introvert, Raj Yoga is prescribed in our scriptures. And those who are intellectual, Jnana Yoga is prescribed for such people. So Karma Yoga and Karma, they are very essential for the development of our life. So far as our practical life is concerned, without action, without karma, nothing is possible in this practical life. But let us understand what is karma. Our heart is beating. Is it karma? We are breathing. Is it karma? River is flowing. Is it karma? I think it is not karma. There are certain ingredients, certain components which are required to constitute the concept of karma. Anything which has got a living body behind it, the first component which is required for a karma to become karma is a living body. Then second is the doer. There should be an agency, doer. The third one is volitional expression of will. volitional operation, conscious effort should be there. And the fourth category is moral obligation should be there. Moral obligation. And fifth one is the cosmic effect should be there. And then sixth one is there should be fruits. If there are not fruits of your action, so then it is not called karma. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has given 5 components, 5 ingredients for the accomplishment of any action, for the accomplishment of any karma. The first one is the adhishthanam. In Sanskrit, it is called adhishthanam. Adhishthanam, for our practical purposes, we can say that this is our body and mind, infrastructure. So this body and mind, because through our body, mind and senses we perform actions. So the adhisthana means body and mind. Second is called karta, doer. We require a doer for an action. The third one, Lord Krishna says, karanam, vividh karanam, different kinds of instruments like our senses, mind, intellect, and some external objects and instruments are required. Fourth one is called vividh cheshta, different kinds of efforts and endeavors. And the last one, it is called daivam cha panchamam, daivam. Some divine element is involved in the process of our action. So what does this daivam mean? I will come to this particular word daivam later on. So these are the things when they are present behind any action, then an action becomes a karma. Otherwise, it is activity. Activity does not require a doers. You are breathing. Breathing is not in your hand. You are not in charge of your breathing. Your heart is beating. You are not in charge of your heart. It does not beat according to your will. You do not breathe according to your will. It is an automatic process, natural process. So when doership is not there behind the action, and this action has got no any fruit or result, then this cannot be called a karma. So activity and karma, they are different, and karma and karma yoga, they are also different. Every karma cannot become a karma yoga. If it is immoral act, immoral karma, some type of crime, it cannot be related to karma yoga. Criminal activity or criminal action cannot be karma yoga. For any karma to become karma yoga, certain requirements are there. Karma yoga means, yoga here means upay, path. So path of action leading to the union with God or leading to your self-realization or self-purification, that is called karma yoga. When karma becomes a means of self-realization or self-enlightenment or God realization, then it is called karma yoga. So I have explained 3 particular terms: activity, kriya, action, work or karma, and karma yoga. So this is the first concept we have to understand. Now, how many types of karmas are there? So according to our philosophy of Hinduism, or we can say according to our Vedanta, there are 3 types of karmas. One is called sanchit karma, second is called prarabdha karma, and third is called kriyamad karma. Let us try to understand the concept of these 3. Sanchit karma means your stored actions which you have done in your previous births, in your past births. So all the actions which you have done in your past lives, they are stored. So these stored karmas are called your sanchit karmas. A particular slice, a particular part of these stored karmas which have been given to you to exhaust in this very birth, that is called prarabdha karma. And to materialize these prarabdha karma, to exhaust these prarabdha karma, whatever present actions and endeavors you are undertaking, you are doing, that is called your kriyamad karma. So these 3 types of karmas are there according to our Vedanta. Past actions, they are not in your hands. Even prarabdha is not in your hands. You are in charge of your kriyamad karma. The karmas are actions which you are doing at present. You are in charge of only these present karmas. So you can regulate and you can control your prarabdha karmas by adopting proper ways of working at present. That is through your kriyamad karma, which is called agami karma also. So through these kriyamad karmas you can control, you can regulate your prarabdha karmas. Now there is another classification of our karmas according to our dharma shastra. There are 4 kinds of karmas. One is called nitya karma, second is called naimittik karma, third is called kamya karma, and fourth is called prayashchit karma. I will explain them in English. Nitya karma, daily activities, your daily duties which you perform daily. Suppose you get up in the morning, you take bath, you do worship, whatever routine activities you do daily, every day, that is called nitya karma. Then there is another classification, that is another type of karma, that is called naimittik karma. Naimittik karmas are those karmas, those works which you do when some particular occasion appears before you. Suppose there is a marriage in your house, marriage of your younger brother, marriage of your younger sister. So during that period you are required to perform so many things. So these particular actions or efforts which are performed by you on a particular occasion, like marriage or some other occasion, some festival, that is called naimittik karma. The third one is called kamya karma, the karmas which fulfill your desires. To fulfill your ambition, whatever action you adopt, whatever action and work you do or perform, they are called kamya karmas. And fourth one is called your prayashchit karmas. Suppose some particular sins have been committed by you in your previous birth and you are having guilt consciousness. So to remove this guilt consciousness, you are required to do some prayashchit karma. Yani karmas which remove this guilt from your mind, this sin consciousness from your mind, they are called prayashchit karma. These are the 4 categories. But the question is, what kind of karmas are mostly required for us to be completed by us? So they are called kartabya karmas. When we talk about karma in the light of the Bhagavad Gita, so Lord Krishna says that you are required to do your duties. So now the concept of duty is involved in Karma Yoga. So we have to understand what is this duty, how this duty comes into play, comes into existence, how this duty originates in our life. So duty is connected with different identifications and designations which you adopt, which you require, which you create in your life. Suppose as a man, there are certain duties, but when you enter into a particular relationship, suppose you are son of a particular man, he is your father. So now when this relationship of son and father originates, comes into being, then your duties as a son towards your father, they crop up. And the duties of father towards you as a father, they crop up. So when you identify yourself with any particular relationship, then duties connected with those relationships, they crop up, they originate. So duty of a son, duty of a father, duty of a husband, duty of a mother, duty of a sister, duty of a guru, duty of a disciple. And when you consider yourself as a citizen of this country, India, then the duties of the citizens. So because of these different identifications with different relations and different situations, you adopt different names and designations. So these duties are connected with these names and designations. Suppose you are selected as an IS officer and you became the district magistrate in a particular city. So now you have assumed this designation of district magistrate, the name of district magistrate. So some duties and responsibilities, they immediately will crop up and you have to perform those duties and responsibilities as a magistrate of that particular city. So this concept of duty is very important. The entire philosophy of Gita revolves around this particular concept of duty. So duty is the most important work. So we have to perform our duties. But now the question is, Bhagavan Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, your right is to work only. Karmanyevadhikarahte ma phalesu kadachan ma karma phal heturubhu ma te sango astva karmani. Your right is to work only, never to the fruits thereof. Be not instrumental in making your actions bear fruit, nor let your attachment be to inaction. This is very important principle of the Bhagavad Gita. The entire concept of Karma Yoga has been included in this particular verse spoken or sung by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Karmanyevadhikarahte. Your right is to work only. You are entitled to work only. You are not entitled to the fruits thereof. So now a very common question comes into our mind. Suppose you engage a laborer for your housework. From morning till evening he has worked, and in the evening when he comes to you and he asks for his wages, then you recite this particular verse before him that your right is to work only, never to the fruits of. So this seems to be very illogical. But I want to say that Lord Krishna has not spoken this particular verse in this sense. If a laborer is working hard throughout the day and in the evening if he comes and asks for his wages and you say that your right is to work only, never to the fruits, you are not entitled for your wages. This is not Lord Krishna what is meant. You cannot generate your fruits of action. Lord Krishna says you have no right to fruits. So there is a deep philosophy behind it. So we have to understand this philosophy. Why are we entitled to work? Why are we not entitled to our fruits? Because there are three things. If you are not entitled to create or generate fruits and results of your actions. In Vedanta it is says, Karta, doer has no power. Doer has no capacity and caliber to produce the fruits of his actions. Because if this power, this capacity or this right, if any doer has been given, if we give this right and capacity to any doer to create and produce fruits of his own actions, so every doer will create favorable fruits. No doer will create negative fruits. If any student is given the charge, given the right to produce the results of his own actions, so he will always produce success. So doer has no authority, doer has no power, no right to produce the actions. This is one concept of Vedanta. Now second is karma itself cannot produce results because karma is jad. It does not involve the element of knowledge and consciousness or awareness. So karma itself cannot produce the result or action, fruits of action. So now doer cannot produce, cannot make the fruits of his action. Karma itself cannot make the fruits of its action. Then who can create, who can make the fruits of actions, and who can give you the fruits of action? So for this we have to think a little deeper. Any particular person, suppose he is a very great man, he is a very powerful person, and he commits some crime in the country. He is so powerful, so highly positioned man that even police is not ready to lodge an FIR against him. Court is not ready to give decisions against him because they are all afraid of. So for such a person, who can give the results of his action? So for an authority to give and produce the results or fruits of action, he must be all powerful, omnipotent, so that he could give fruits and results or punishments or rewards to the doer, however powerful that doer may be. So omnipotence is the first quality which is required for the authority who can produce and who can deliver the fruits or results of actions to the doer. The second thing is he should be omniscient. That authority should be all-knowing. Suppose you have taken so many births on this particular planet, You have taken suppose 100 births as a human being, and you have committed innumerable activities and actions in your previous births. Even you do not remember what you have done last year on such and such date. What food have you taken last year on such and such date? You do not remember. So you have taken 100 births, for example, we can suppose, but that authority who is going to deliver fruits and results of your actions, he remembers it. He should be all-knowing. He should be omniscient. Whatever you have done in whatever your birth, whichever your birth, he remembers everything. He has got a complete balance sheet of your actions before him. So the second qualifications required for a person, for an authority to deliver and produce and make your fruits of actions and convey those fruits to the doer, that is called omnipotence. He should be omnipotent and omniscient. The third one, all pervading, omnipresent. Suppose you have done anything in India and you ran away from India, you went out of the country and you settled somewhere else. So today there is an arrangement of Interpol that will catch you, that will bring you to the country. But God does not require any Interpol. That entity which is going to produce results of your actions, he is pervading everywhere, he is all pervading, present everywhere. In whatever nook and corner of the world you go, you run away, you fly, God is already present there. So the third qualification for that particular authority who is to produce your results, to give you the results and fruits of your action, that is called omnipresence. So almighty, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and it should be immortal. It should be beyond birth and death. Coming from the eternity of time, that particular entity should be there. It should be immortal. It should be always present. So all these qualifications when taken together, so this concept has been derived that any such authority which has got all these qualifications and strengths and powers which are required to produce the fruits of action and deliver it to the doer, that is called God. So this is the concept of God. Why is the concept of God required in this particular philosophy of our Hinduism? That is, who will deliver fruits, who will create fruits, who will make fruits, who will produce fruits and results of actions of a doer. Because doer has no power, doer has no authority, doer has no capacity and capability to produce the fruits. Karma itself being the jad activity, it cannot produce the results and fruits. So there is a third agency, that is called God, which is required to produce the actions of our karma, results and fruits of our karma. So now this particular authority, which is known as God in our Hindu philosophy, that is the giver of fruits, that is karma phaldata, and he is karma adhyaksh also. He is the karma adhyaksh also. He is the president of our karma. He is the giver of fruits. So when your karmas are dedicated to the fruit of God, that is called karma yoga. That is called karma yoga. So karma yoga does not mean karma only, because karma is always inspired by your desires and ambitions. Because Bhagavan Shankaracharya, he gives a beautiful chain of our karma. He says the first step is avidya, ignorance, nescience, and from avidya comes the desire or ambition. From desire originates our actions and karmas, and then you get the results. So this avidya, how does desire come into being? Because you do not know the real nature of your life. Your existential nature of your life you do not know. This is said in our scriptures. Because of ignorance we are suffering. So when we do not know our real nature, which is already Satchidanand, which is already self-fulfilled, self-enlightened. So when you do not know this your real nature, existential nature, only then you feel that something is lacking within you. When the feel of some lackness comes into your personality, then this sense of lackness gives rise to desire, that I want something more. So from avidya, from ignorance, this desire is created. And from this desire originates actions. From actions you get the results. So karma has a compelling particular element that is called desire, and behind the desire stands the element of ignorance or nescience. Now when you proceed on the path of Karma Yoga, so there are 4 dimensions of Karma Yoga. The one dimension is connected with Jnani, and the second dimension is connected with a Bhakt. So Jnani thinks, in our scripture Bhagavad Gita, this has been said that we do not do anything. We are not the doer of any activity. So now the question comes, who does the activity, who does the action, who performs the actions? So the Bhagavad Gita says that it is the nature which performs the actions. It is the nature which performs the actions. You have got body, you have got mind, intellect, your chit, memory faculty is there, your ego sense is there, then pran, vital force is there, sense of organ, sense of perceptions, they are there, and consciousness stands behind all these things. So your consciousness, your pure awareness, which is your core being, which is your very existence, which is your real nature, that is functioning through this psychophysical complex, this body-mind instrument. So actually conscious is inactive. There is no activity, no work, no action involved in the pure consciousness. Activity or work is done by your body-mind, by your intellect, by your mind, by your vital forces, your sense organs. All these things are involved in the action. So gunaha gunesh vartante. This is what Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. There are 3 kinds of qualities. One is satogun, second is rajogun, third is tamogun. These qualities, they operate in your life. According to the dominance of one of these qualities, your activities are performed. When sattva is dominating in your personality, you will be doing karmas of sattvic nature. When rajas is dominating in your personality, you will be doing the karmas of rajas nature. And when the tamas is dominating in your personality, you will be doing the karmas of tamasic nature. So all these qualities, they are important. They are responsible for different kinds of activities in your life. So this is the perspective of Jnani. A Jnani thinks that he is not the doer, he is simply a witness. And all the actions and activities, they are taking place within the realm of nature. Now Bhakta says that he is working for God. There are different categories in this Bhakta concept. One is called, the first category is that he is working for God. Whatever action, whatever work he is doing in his life, that is dedicated to God. He is working as a worship of God. There are 3 things. First is work and worship. In the initial stage of our sadhana, we divide the 2. We keep them different from each other. Work is different, separate, worship is separate. But when we proceed a little in the path of sadhana, then we think that we work as a worship. We consider that whatever we are doing, that is a kind of worship to God, worship of God. But the third state, the highest stage comes when we think that our work is the worship. There is no difference between work and worship. We can take work as a worship and worship as a work. When they become synonymous, this is the highest stage of our bhakti. So this is one categorization. Now the first one I was telling, that when you work for God, Thakur Ramakrishna Dev, Guru of Swami Vivekananda, he said that when you are living in this world, then you are having 2 hands. From one hand you should hold on to God, and from another hand you should do work of your samsara, your worldly activities, worldly duties. So with one hand you should perform your worldly duties, and with another hand you should hold of God. Second aspect is there, कि you should catch या hold on to God with both of your hands. So now the question comes, if we hold on to God with both our hands, So who will be doing the work or responsibilities and duties? So here the answer is that Bhagavan Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogachemam vahamyam. A person who ponders over me, who depends on me without any other support, he has totally surrendered his life to the feet of God. He has totally given himself in the hands of God. Then God takes care of his life. It is God who makes arrangements for all his activities. In the life of Ramakrishna, you see that Mother Kali, he was working through Ramakrishna. The Divine Mother was playing through Ramakrishna. All the activities which were being done through the body of Ramakrishna, that were done only because of the Mother's presence. So this Ananya Bhakti, when you are exclusive, you have exclusive devotion to God, then Bhagavan says, Lord Krishna says that I will be working through that man. There are so many examples of our bhaktas that all the duties which those bhaktas were to do, God himself has done. But our bhakti, our devotion should be of that particular level. So from the standpoint of knowledge, we are the witness, we are not the doers. All the activities are being done in the realm or in the region of nature. And from devotional standpoint, we should work for God. So most of the people, those who are doing the work of God, they are karma yogis. Because without this element of bhakti, without this element of devotion, karma yoga is not possible. If you want to do karma, it is possible. But if you want to do karma yoga, then element of God, element of divinity is required. So it is bhakti which converts karma into karma yoga. It is bhakti, it is devotion which converts your karma into karma yoga. Without bhakti, you cannot become a karma yogi. If you are witness, so strictly and purely speaking, you are not a karma yogi, you are a jnana yogi. This sakshi bhav, this witness sense, if it is there, and you are witness or seer of all the activities which are happening in your life, within and without, so you are a jnana yogi, you are a seer only, you are a witness only, you are not a doer. So when you are not a doer, so how can you become a karma yogi? Because karma involves doings. So you are away or beyond from doings, beyond the doings, so you cannot become karma yogi. But unless or until this bhakti is involved, you cannot become karma yogi. So the first concept is that bhakti is the converter of karma into karma yoga. Now second important thing about karma yoga is that karma yoga is such a beautiful path of evolution and development which gives you worldly progress along with your spiritual evolution. All other paths, whether it is bhakti or it is meditation or it is Vedanta, they will not give you worldly progress. Secluded efforts are needed there. You cannot be in the world and at that same time you cannot practice Shravan, Manana, Nididhyasana, you cannot practice meditation. For meditation to practice, for Shravan, Manana, Nididhyasana, you are required to remain all alone in a secluded place. Meditation is done in a secluded place when you are all alone, no disturbance is required. But so far as Karma Yoga is required, Karma Yoga is concerned, so you can practice this Karma Yoga even in the midst of all your activities and duties and worldly affairs. So for your all-round development, whether that development or evolution is connected with your external world or it is connected with your internal world, Karma Yoga is the best possible sadhana for our this age. And that is why Swami Vivekananda has emphasized a lot on this particular path of evolution, that is called Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga gives you both. It leads to the welfare of the society and at the same time it leads to your own self-fulfillment. So your individual self-fulfillment along with the welfare of the society, nation and humanity at large. That is the outcome, that is the fruit, that is the result of Karma Yoga. So this is the best possible way of working in our day-to-day life, in our practical life. Now, what are the requisites? What are the compulsory requirement, indispensable requisites for a person to become Karma Yogi? So Bhagavana says that, Lord Krishna says that you have right to work only, never to the fruits of. But any action, whether it is dedicated to God or you are not dedicating it to God, you are dedicating to somebody else, it will produce its results, it will produce its fruits. So what will you do to those fruits? So phala tyaga means you have to offer those fruits of your actions to Lord. Then those fruits of your action, they will not remain fruits, they will become prasada. Suppose you have purchased some sweets and you have brought them to your home, to your house. You have distributed those sweets among your brothers and sisters. So they will say that Bhaiya has brought sweets today. So they are sweets only. But suppose you have purchased some sweets and you have taken them to a temple, you have offered them to the feet of Lord through a pujari, and then you brought those sweets back to your home. So now those sweets are not sweets, they will become prasada. Sweets are the same, but your attitude has changed, that now they are not sweets, they have become prasada. Similarly, if you are doing some actions and you are dedicating the fruits of those actions to the feet of Lord, to the feet of God, so those fruits will become prasada. Whatever will come back to you as a fruits and results of your actions, you will think that I have surrendered the fruits of my action to the feet of Lord, and now whatever I am receiving back, they are the prasada given by Lord as a result of our actions, as a consequence of our actions. So Karma Yogi always has this attitude that whatever he receives in his life as a result, as a consequence of his actions and works, he is receiving the fruits of God, not the fruits of prasada of God, not the fruits of his actions. So he does not become happy or he does not become sorrowful. He remains equanimous. He maintains the equilibrium of his mind. Samatvam. Samatvam is not disturbed. His equilibrium is not disturbed, whether he gets positive results or he gets negative results. So the first requisite, the first compulsory qualification which a Karma Yogi possesses is that he offers the fruits of his actions to the Lord. Second one is he is not driven by his desires. He does not act under the influence of his desires and ambitions. He thinks it is the will of God. Will of God is operating through him. He thinks the driving force of his action as a will of God. So when will of God is operating through that particular man, so he does not think that he has become slave to his desires and his ambitions. So desire is not present in Karma Yogi, and attachment to the fruits, that is not present in Karma Yogi. Fruits will be there, but he will dedicate and surrender those fruits, offer those fruits to Lord, and his fruits of actions will be taken by him as prasad, given back to him by Lord. So this is the third element. And now the sense of doership should not be there. The third element which is required, no attachment to fruits, no presence of desire, and now the third one is no sense of doership. He does not consider himself to a doer. He considers that he is an instrument in the hands of God. The will of God is playing through him. God is operating through him. So this is the concept of Karma Yoga. These three things are present, and when he is not a doer, so he will not be an enjoyer or sufferer. Because with karma there is a compulsory condition that if you are a doer, so you have to become sufferer. You have to become enjoyer. If good results are there, so you will enjoy the results, and if some pains are there as a result of your actions, so you will suffer those pains. So doer becomes either sufferer or enjoyer, but a karmayogi does not become enjoyer or sufferer, because he takes the things as a prasad. So there is no sense of bhoktritva, sense of enjoyership or sufferership in prasada. So that is the benefit of karma yoga. Karma binds us, but karma yoga releases us, it frees us. Any particular desire, any particular karma, any particular action which has been motivated by desire, when you complete that particular desire driven action, so it is completed, and then another desire crops up. You fulfill the second desire, then another third desire crops up. But when you perform karma yoga yani you perform your duties with a sense that they are given to you by God, they are the works of God, responsibilities, assignments given to you by God. So they are not your works, your personal desire motivated works. They are the duties given to you by God. When you have this sense while performing your duties, so such duties, they release you, they do not bind you. So karma yoga leads to freedom, and karma leads to bondage, and bondage leads to suffering, pains, and freedom does not lead to your suffering and pain. So this is the benefit of karma yoga, that if we perform this karma yoga and we enjoy the fruits of karma yoga as a prasada given to us by God. Now there are some other questions which are involved here in karma yoga. There are three concepts. One is your karma, that is called your purushartha, whatever endeavor you are doing. These are the general questions which are raised by the public. And then there is grace of God, and the third one is called your destiny. So you very often think that how far my karma helps me, where the role of destiny comes into being, where is the role of God in between destiny and karma. All these are philosophical questions, they crop up in mind. So I will be giving you a beautiful example from our Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas. When Sita ji was abducted by Ravana, so Rama went in search of Sita ji, and you people know that Lanka is situated across the ocean. So a bridge was required to be constructed over the ocean so that the army of Rama could reach Lanka and could fight with Ravana and bring back to Sita. So a bridge was created. So Nal Neel, they were the engineers in the party of Rama. They created and constructed the bridge. Hanumana was the chief commander, Angad was there, Jamwant was there, and so many others were there. When the bridge was completed, then Hanumanji came to Rama and he said that kindly visit the bridge and give your comments whether it is well built or not. So Rama went with Hanuman, Jamwant and others, and he traveled a long distance, and then he stood on the bridge. So when Rama stood on the bridge, so all those fishes and all those animals which were in the ocean, they came out to see the beauty of Rama. Take the lesson from this story. A beautiful lesson is there in this story. So when all these creatures of ocean, they came out and they were looking at the beautiful face of Rama, so they were absorbed in seeing the face of Rama so much that they rose beyond their body and mind consciousness. They were in trance, in a sense you can say. Samadhi mein chale gaye sab, beyond body and mind consciousness. So Rama asked, ki our army is very huge. Innumerable number of monkeys, bhalus, all those were there. So Rama said, if we try to cross this bridge, cross this ocean through the bridge, so it will take a lot of time. And Sita ji has given a time for 1 month, that if Rama does not come to Lanka within 1 month, so Ravana will kill Sita ji. So in such a short span of time, it was not possible for such a huge army to go across the ocean. So Rama said that all the monkeys and these bhalus, they should cross this ocean by climbing over these animals and creatures of the ocean which have come up to see the beauty of my face. So Hanumanaji was there, Angadji was there. He said that if it was possible that by climbing over the backs of these animals and these creatures of the ocean, if army could go across the ocean, then why did you ask us to construct this bridge? This was the question raised by those people. So Rama immediately replied that if you had not constructed this bridge, so where would I have stood upon? Where would I have stood upon? You constructed the bridge, there I stood, then this grace of God has descended in the form of those creatures, and the rest of the army was asked to go across the ocean by climbing over their backs. So answer to this, that Purushartha or Prarabdha or grace of God, first you have to do Purushartha. When you do Purushartha, then on the bridge which you have created through your own efforts and your hard work, then the grace of God descends on that particular bridge of your Purushartha and it helps you. So there is no substitute for your Purushartha, for your hard work. That is why Lord Krishna says that your right is to work only. It is your first right. First you have to do work, you have to do hard work, you have to do intense work. And after doing that intense work, the grace of God that comes into being. Now the question of Prarabdha is there. Prarabdha comes before you in the form of different circumstances and situations. You have not chosen this particular form of your body and personality. Your color of your body is not your choice. You have not selected your parents. You have not selected your place of birth. You have not selected your family conditions, your circumstances which are prevailing in your particular family. So there are so many things. You have not chosen your brothers and sisters. So many your blood relations you have got, just you have taken birth in this world. So you have not chosen all those things. They have come into your life because of your Prarabdha. So Prarabdha plays a role of giving you circumstances and situations in which you are born. To taking the help of those circumstances, that is your capital. You have come with this capital of Prarabdha in this particular world. So now utilize that capital. You increase that capital through your Kriyamad Karma, through your efforts, through your hard work, intense hard work, by taking the grace of God in your hand, and you will get successful. So this is the chain network which often comes into our mind. What is the role of our karma? What is the role of our destiny? What is the role of God's grace in our life? So this is answer to this question. Already I am giving answer to this question, that God's grace descends upon you when you already work hard. Without your hard work, God's grace will not do anything in your life. You require electricity. You require a particular wire for electricity to flow. If you do not have a wire, electricity will not flow. So unless there is a wire of Purushartha, the electricity of God's grace will not flow. Wire of Purushartha is required. Wire of your hard work is required. Only then the electricity of God's grace will flow in that particular wire. So you should be very clear about this, that your right is to work only. Do at most hard work, but with a sense of Karma Yogi. You have been given at this particular moment this duty of studying hard in such a beautiful and good institution. So you have to take your studies as duties given to you by God. Do not consider that they are your duties. You have been placed in these circumstances and in these situations by God. Because phal is given by God. Doer cannot create the phal. Karma itself cannot produce, cannot create its own results. There is third agency which is called God. He is the giver and producer of your fruits and your results. So whatever prarabdha is a phal. Prarabdha is a phal. Circumstances and situations which you are passing through, you are enjoying or you are suffering. If they are favorable, they are good, they are pleasant, you are enjoying the circumstances. If they are unpleasant, so you are suffering the circumstances. So these are the fruits. So they have been given to you by God. So take these circumstances in whatever situation you are present, in whatever situation, whatever work or duty you are performing, that has been given as a fruit of your previous action, previous hard work by God. Today you are in IIT, suppose, in this institution. So this is the result of your past hard labor. You have studied hard. You have made so many efforts to get selected there. So whatever present result and fruits you are receiving, you have received. That is the result of your past actions. And in future, whatever you will receive, that will be the result of your present actions. So your present is the result of your past karma, and your future will be the result of your present karma. So now past karma, your past is not in your hands, and your future is still unborn. Past is gone, future is yet to come. Present is in your hand. That is why Swami Vivekananda says that always live in the present. Always live in the present means you should take care of your present duties and your present works. Because our energies are dissipated through particular three sources. One is your worries about the past, memories about the past. We keep on brooding over the past. We are always absorbed in the memories of past. So these memories of past, your attachments and your excitements at present, they are dissipating your energies. They are exhausting you. And your fears, your anxieties, your imaginations, your desires, your unnecessary dreams related to future, they are also dissipating and exhausting you. So you should not be absorbed in the memories of the past. This is the first source of dissipation of your energy. Take a lesson from the past. You have to learn lessons from your past experiences, from your past activities, from your past sufferings, past events. Learn a lesson and utilize those lessons, those learnings in your present activities, in your present duties. So in present, what we do, in present we remain attached so much to so many things. There are so many sources of distractions today. You people know it very well. So if you have got a goal, particular goal before your life, so there should not be deviation and distraction from the goal. Your life must be goal oriented, goal centered at each and every moment of your life. There should not be distraction and deviation from your goal. Only then you can fulfill it. So attachment, unnecessary attachments to other things than your goal, they are the obstructions and hurdles, impediments at your present life, in your present life. And then excitements. We never remain cool and calm. We never remain stable. We never remain concentrated and focused. There are so many things which get us excited. So these excitements are very harmful. You cannot concentrate. You cannot stabilize your mind. And unless or until there is stability and concentration and calmness and coolness in your mind at the mental level, you cannot perform your studies or any particular work of quality. So these three particular sources, these holes from which your energies are dissipated, they should be immediately checked. Memories of the past, attachments, excitements of the present, and your worries, your imaginations, your anxieties, your fears and phobias regarding the future. Then you will remain centered in your present goal. So this is what we can say, that all these things are required in our Karma Yoga. So I was dealing with the concept of Purushartha, Prarabdha and Bhagavad Kripa. Now another concept which comes in the Bhagavad Gita, I want to clarify these concepts because in future, when you will be out of this institution after completing your education, so there are thousands and thousands of things which you will counter in your life. All the knowledge of life you are studying, whatever you are studying, that will give you only job. This is connected with your living, livelihood. This is not the science of life. And there are thousands and thousands of things which are beyond your notebooks and beyond your textbooks. The real lessons of life, the real visions of life you will be learning from your practical experiences when you will be interacting with the society outside in your life. So these things must be clear to you. There are 4 particular words. One is called karma, second is called vikarma, third is called akarma, and the fourth is akarmanyata. You must have the clarity of these 4 words while knowing this concept of karma yoga. Karma, I have already explained that any action to become karma, there are so many things which are required. One doer is required, fruits of action should be there, living body should be there, conscious effort should be there, its results and fruits should be there, moral obligation should be there, and cosmic effects are there. So for karma, all these things are required, only then that action will be called as karma. Now second is called vikarma. Vikarma can be termed in 2 ways. Vikarma is viparit karma, yani the action which is not good, which is prohibited, yani wrongdoings or wrong actions, they are called vikarma. This is one meaning of this vikarma, and the second meaning is vikarma of vikarma is visist karma. Visist, specific work, specific action which does not have fruit and does not have doer. Any action which does not have doer and does not have fruit, doer behind and fruit before, it is called activity. You are breathing. You are not the doer of breathing. You are not in charge of your breathing. Your heart is beating. You are not in charge of your heartbeat. They are activities. River is flowing. Wind is blowing. Fan is rotating. All these are activities. They are not karma. So this will be termed as vikarma in the language of Bhagavad Gita. So vikarma has got 2 meanings. One is called activity, which has got no doer and no fruit. And second meaning is called as viparit karma, that is prohibited action, wrong actions, which we should not do. And the third word is called akarma. Akarma is कि there is non-doership, yani karma is there, but you do not consider yourself to be the doer of that action. You are the witness of that action. As the first concept I have dealt with, the doer of the action, you do not feel yourself to be, yani you are the witness of action. This is the vision of a Jnana Yogi. So akarma, Jnana Yogis thinks that karmas are being done in the realm of nature. I am not the doer, I am just a witness. And Bhakta thinks that he is an instrument in the hands of God. He is not witness. God is doing varka, God is playing through that particular Bhakta. So there is a difference between the visions of these two, Bhakta and Jnani. And the fourth word is akarmanyata. Some people think that we are not the doer, so we should become akarmanya, inactive, lazy, lethargic. So this lethargy or this laziness, this inactivity, this passivity, they are not called a karma. They are detrimental, they are harmful. They have never been recommended in our scriptures. Our great men, those who were enlightened like Buddha, Vivekananda, Shankaracharya, they were men of great purushartha. Continuously, ceaselessly they were striving and working in their life for the welfare of the world and society and humanity. So these particular words I wanted to clarify before you so that you should not have any confusion about these words. Karma, vikarma, akarma and akarmanyata, inactivity. That is not recommended. You should not be in the grip of inactivity or laziness or lethargy. So these are the things. Now every karma has got 3 effects. This you are required to know. There are 2 groups. The first group of effects is that whatever you do, its first effect is called external effect, yani physical effect, which is visible. Suppose I ask you to clean the room and you cleaned the room, so the visible effect, the physical effect is that your room is cleaned. It appears before you that now your room is well ordered, it is neat and clean because you have done the cleaning of your room. So this is the visible effect. This is the first external effect. Second effect is that the attitude, outlook with which you have done this particular cleaning of your room, the motive or intention with which you have done your action. So the motive or action or the motive or intention, attitude, outlook with which you have cleaned your room, that is called your internal effect. Internal effect is not visible. So you have done the cleaning of room with happy mind, with positive mind, or you have done it compulsively. You were not willing to clean the room, but still you cleaned. So all these things are connected with your motive and intentions. So this motive or intention, that is the second effect of the karma, which creates a kind of impression or tendency in your mind. That is called samskara. And your character, the second topic related with karma yoga is character building. So a little I want to come to that particular part of the topic. So your character is formed because of these impressions, which is the second effect of your karma, which is internal effect, which does not become visible. And now the third effect is called, that is called cosmic effect. That is called cosmic effect. Yani your karma produces the third effect, that is called cosmic, that is not visible, and that is why it is called adrashta in our philosophy. Adrashta, which is not visible, which is not seen. But in due course of time, this adrashta, this cosmic effect will come to help you. Suppose you have helped somebody in your life and you are now in some distress or in some crisis. You are expecting help from so many of your friends, but nobody is helping you, those who are known to you. And all of a sudden a help comes from some unknown source. And you are surprised that the help which I expected from my friends, that did not come, but now this person whom I do not know, he has helped me in this particular crisis. So this is what? This is also the result of your previous action, which is called cosmic effect, adrashta. So God has sent somebody who is rendering or extending his cooperation and help to you in this particular critical situation. So your adrashta help you. That is called, every action has got equal and opposite reaction. So whatever you have sent in the as adrashta, that will come back to you. So three effects are there. External effect, which is physical change, which is visible. Internal effect, which creates impression because of the motive and intention of your action, attitude of your action. And the third one is called cosmic effect, which is action and reaction, which is stored in your sanchit karma. So this is one classification of three. Another classification, when you do some action, so it creates fruits, it creates some results, and it creates effects. So fruits goes to doer. The person who does the karma, he receives the fruits. Those who are dependents on you, they receive the results. And those who are connected with you, related with you, they receive the effects and influences. Suppose I give an example. You have committed a crime. Suppose you have shot somebody dead. Now you have been imprisoned. So the fruits of your this committing murder, imprisonment, that is the fruit that you will suffer. You are the doer of that particular murder. So fruit of your this particular doing will go to you. And your family members, your near and dear ones, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, whatever relationships you have in your family, they are dependents upon you. Your job has been lost because of being accused in the eye of law. So those dependents will suffer the results, the consequences. So results go to the dependents, fruits go to the doer, and affects those who are your relatives. Even they are affected. People call that, yes, your one relative has committed this murder, now he is in jail. They feel humiliated. What a madman he was, he could not control his anger, he could not maintain the equilibrium of his mind. So effects and influences, they go to the relatives. So all these things we have to keep in mind. So you can now understand after such a deep analysis how complex and intricate this network of karma is. And if you understand all these things properly, correctly, then you will be able to perform your karma in the right perspective, in the right attitude. Now the second thing I want to come, character building, some particular tips. What is your character? Swami Vivekananda says that character is the sum total of or aggregate of your tendencies and impressions which have been created within you by your actions. See, when you do any action, then action, when it is repeated again and again, then it becomes habit. Habit, yani your action when repeated again and again, then it becomes habit. When habit gets stabilized, then it becomes your nature. When nature is matured, it becomes your samskara. Impressions and tendencies, they are stored in the chit, that is your memory bank. They are stored there, and these samskaras again they motivate you to do actions, to behave, to react, to act, to interact in the society. So these particular samskaras, they are the root causes of your character. As your samskaras are, as your impressions are, your character will be of the same type. Your reactions will be of the same type. Your actions will be of the same type. You will choose your company according to your samskaras, according to your tendencies. So if you want to make your character great and good, so you have to maintain the goodness and greatness of your samskaras. And for maintaining the goodness and greatness of your samskara, it is required that your actions should be good and great. And for actions to be good and great, your thoughts and your emotions should be good and great. It is your thought which generates actions. As your thoughts, so are your actions. And as your actions, so is your samskaras and so is your character. So the root cause of your action is your thought. So you have to take the charge of your thoughts, your ideas very well. Unless or until you take the charge of your ideas, you will not be able to do great actions, good actions. And if your actions are not good, your samskaras will be good and your character will not be good. So the basic element which constitutes your character, that is your thought and that is your action. Along with it, I want to suggest you that each one of you should try to read the good books of great people. Because the knowledge which you receive, they are from two sources. Yani books and then your gurus, your teachers. So your books should be very nice. The quality of books you read, the company in which you live, and the teachers with whom you are receiving your knowledge, they are very important in your life. More than your parents, the influence and effect of your teachers is seen on you. So select the best books, books which are going to form your personality, instill into the qualities of leadership, qualities of sublime and great character, a positive and constructive attitude, good decision-making power, magnetic personality, effective communication skills, great insight and vision about your life. All these things you will not be getting from your institution. You have to make extra efforts to imbibe these qualities and these qualifications for your life to become successful and meaningful in the society. And there are some particular areas where you have to focus from the very beginning. The first one is your health. If your health is not good, if you are not leading a disease-free life, you will not be able to do anything in your life. The importance and significance of health we realize when we go to the hospitals and we see there how people are crawling there. So, foremost thing which is required for you to become a good man, a man of character, a man of personality, your health should be very nice, physically and mentally. The second is that you should try to maintain the peace and equilibrium of your mind. If your mind is at peace, if your mind is at equilibrium, you will be able to concentrate and focus on any particular work which is given to you, and you will get success. A mind which is not focused, which is unstable, that cannot do anything great in life. Swamiji says concentration is the key of success. Whatever you want to achieve in your life, in any field of life, if you are fully concentrated, 100% concentrated, you can achieve anything in your life. So health should be there, peace of mind should be there, equilibrium of mind should be there, and also you should possess wealth. Wealthy person should be there. Wealth is a broader concept. It is not only having money only. Apart from money, there are so many things which are required to enrich your life. Knowledge is required, health is required, good relationship is required, some virtues, ethical values are required, human values are required, happiness is required, bliss is required, peace is required, self-fulfillment is required. Nice and good, lofty ideas and ideals are required. If you possess all these things, then you are set to be a wealthy man. So health should be there, wealth should be there, peace of mind should be there, happiness should be there, and equilibrium of mind should be there. And at the same time, a feeling of altruism should be inculcated in you people. Do something for the society. A Karma Yogi never lives for his own life, for himself only, for his family only. A Karma Yogi is always socially oriented. He thinks about the welfare of the world, because selfishness is the root cause of our human beings, and this Karma Yoga removes this selfishness. Karma Yoga makes you unselfish, and Swami Vivekananda says that unselfishness is God. He says renunciation and service, they are the twin ideals of our country. Intensify India or her in those channels, the rest will take care of itself. So renunciation and service. Renunciation for your sake and service for the sake of society and world at large, humanity at large. When you practice this value of renunciation within your life, so you become a great contributor to the society and humanity. And unless or until you become a great contributor to the society and humanity positively and constructively, there is no use of your education. There is no use of your life, because you have taken a lot from the society, from the country, from this world. Whatever you are having, whatever you are doing, suppose you are reading in this institution, so you have not built up this institution. All the books which you are reading, these clothes you are wearing, all these have been produced by so many people. The labor and hard work of so many people is involved in all the things which you are availing in your life to sustain your life, to achieve something great in your life. So you have taken so many things from the society and the world and humanity. So it is your moral duty and obligation to reciprocate it, to give it back to the society and humanity. And this can be done only by a Karma Yogi, a person of ambition and personal desires. He cannot do these things. So personally oriented will should not be there, socially oriented will should be there. A Karma Yogi is required to dedicate his life to the service of nation. That is why Swamiji says that for the coming 50 years, you throw away all the gods and goddesses in the ocean. Make India the only God you have to worship. This is what we expect from you young people. This is what Swamiji says. So we should take lessons from these great people. Our life should be great. Our life should be sublime. We should follow the footsteps of these great persons who have done a lot for the society, and today we are cherishing as a heritage of knowledge given by those persons to our country. So all these things, I think it is enough according to our topic, Karma Yoga and character building. Now if you have got any doubts, any questions, so I welcome your questions.
you, sir. It was really a pleasure listening to you. We learned a lot from your very well thought, in-depth and passionate discussion about not only Karma Yoga but Bhakti and various related concepts from Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, and also making it anecdotal, inspiring our students, motivating our students to live a more peaceful and calm life. Now we will take questions from the students. So you need to raise your hands, otherwise you won't be unmuted. Raise your hands and I will call out the name of the student. So I request the admin to kindly unmute the student whom I call out.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, so students, you may raise your hands if you have any questions and queries.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, Ajay, yes, good.
Sir, I am Ajay. Sir, I ask, sir, you told us all about sirs like karma or sir, I have a question that who is sir God? Sir, is it Ram, Krishna or sir Allah or sir why sir God just changed by country, state by state or even people by people?
I have told you Karma Phaldata, the authority, the agency who produces the results of your actions, who gives you the results of your actions, the fruits of your actions, he is God. In Vedantic perspective, we can say that your this absolute pure awareness, which is your pure consciousness, that has been personified in the form of God, personified as God.
And the students are writing in the chat box that they have learned a lot from your lecture, expressing their gratitude to you. So any other questions? If I cannot detect the students who raised their hands, I request the admin to do it. If anyone's raised their hands, please unmute them. Yes, Anubhav Kumar Pandey. Please unmute Anubhav Kumar Pandey.
Sir, you said about the guilt. I have a question for that. Suppose a person X kills a person Y. It doesn't have guilt for killing him. In which category does it belong to?
What do you mean by category? It belongs to a kind of sin if he has killed a person.
If someone is not guilty about something,
If he doesn't feel guilty even after committing this murder,
he thinks कि God has told him to do so, and he killed a certain person.
think. Suppose our army soldiers are there. Their duty is to protect our country.
He just killed someone. For example, if a person X is walking on a road and he sees a person Y and he thinks I should kill him and he killed him.
Then what do you want to know?
Is he right or wrong?
He is wrong.
If he don't get guilt on himself.
He is wrong.
He is wrong?
Yes.
Yes, so I hope you received your answer. There's one question in the chat box which I find interesting. One student has asked that according to Bhagavad Gita, karma is greater than bhagya. And so he wants you to shed some light on it.
I have already discussed this point ki bhagya means your destiny, your prarabdha. So prarabdha has been given to you. This capital you have brought with you. And now you have to make efforts. You have to do hard work to exhaust this particular prarabdha or destiny. Destiny is created by your karmas, by your hard work. It is karma which has created your prarabdha. So karma is everything.
Thank you, sir. Sudhanshu Mishra has raised his hand. Sudhanshu, can you please ask your question?
Morning, sir.
Morning.
From Delhi. My question is that, sir, some people are very well
healthy from 5 years birth. You said that some our destiny are always decided. Some people are very healthy from their and some are very poor from their birth. And those are very healthy from their birth, they created for heart. And until that, they also live a very satisfactory life as compared to those who are born in a poor family, who will have to survive a lot. So then there is no equality between. We have just take a birth in this world and we didn't do any work. So how our karma had decided that we have to born in this poor family and they have to born in this wealthy family?
This is only because of your previous karmas. Everybody has got different prarabdha. So Hindu philosophy believes in the rebirth, theory of karma and theory of rebirth. So in your previous births, what you have done, you do not know. So as a result of your prarabdha, you have got the present circumstances. So since karmas and actions of each and every person are different, their motives are different, their intentions are different. So they receive different kinds of circumstances, different kinds of situations. So whatever diversity you are seeing in this world, that is only because of diversity in actions of people. Only karma theory can explain this diversity, this difference.
I see a number of hands raised and a number of questions are coming to the chat box as well, but we can't take all of your questions. So maybe 2-3 more. Shobhik Nath has raised his hand. So Shobhik, you want to ask your question? Get to Shobhik. So Tanisha Kumari, you want to ask any question? You have raised your hand.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Sir, may I ask a question in Hindi?
हाँ, yes.
सर, जैसा कि कृष्ण भगवान ने गीता में कहा था कि मतलब कर्म भी मैं हूँ और सब में मैं ही हूँ, सोच भी मैं हूँ, कर्म भी मैं हूँ, जीव भी मैं हूँ, शिव भी मैं हूँ, हर चीज में मैं ही हूँ, कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं जिसमें मैं नहीं हूँ। तो अगर सब चीज वही है, सोच भी वही है, तो क्यों कुछ लोगों के मन में अच्छे विचार आते हैं, कुछ लोगों के मन में गंदे विचार आते हैं? मतलब अगर सोच से कर्म डिपेंड करता है और कर्म से आगे वाला प्रारब्ध होता है, आगे पुरुषार्थ होता है, लेकिन अगर सोच ही भगवान है तो सबकी सोच अच्छी क्यों नहीं हो जाती?
ये जो बात भगवान ने बोली है कि सब कुछ मैं ही हूँ, ये सर्वोच्च दृष्टिकोण से बोली है, जो हाईएस्ट एंगल है उससे बोली है। जैसे भगवान शंकराचार्य ने कहा कि ये सारा जगत क्या है, जगत मिथ्या है, ब्रह्म सत्य है, सर्वम खल्विदम ब्रह्म, है ना। ईशावास्यमिदम सर्वम यत् किंच जगत्याम जगत तेन त्यक्तेन भुंजीथा मागृदास कस्य शुद्धनम। तो सारा जगत ब्रह्म स्वरूप है। गीता में एक श्लोक आता है, ब्रह्मार्पणम ब्रह्मवि ब्रह्माग्ना ब्रह्मणो हुतम ब्रह्मैव तेन गतव्य ब्रह्म कर्म समाधिना। सब कुछ भगवान कहते हैं कि ब्रह्म ही है, यानी जो आहुति दे रहे हैं वो भी ब्रह्म है, आहुति देने वाला ब्रह्म है, आग भी ब्रह्म है, जो होता है वो भी ब्रह्म है, और जो है जो पंडित पुरोहित यज्ञ करा रहा है याज्ञिक भी ब्रह्म है, सब कुछ ब्रह्म है। तो ये जो बात भगवान ने बोला कि सब कुछ मैं ही हूँ, ये ब्रह्मनिष्ठ महापुरुष की दृष्टि से बोला है, ये ब्रह्म के लेवल से बोला है। सो जब हम ब्रह्म के लेवल से बात करते हैं, व्हेन वी टॉक फ्रॉम द एंगल ऑफ द हाईएस्ट रियलिटी, ट्रांसडेंटल रियलिटी ऑफ दिस वर्ल्ड, देन एवरीथिंग इज ब्रह्मन, एवरीथिंग इज प्योर कॉन्शसनेस। लेकिन जब हम उसके नीचे उतरते हैं, व्यवहारिक जगत में आते हैं, क्योंकि देखो हमारे यहाँ 3 प्रकार की सत्ताएं मानी गई बेटा। पहली पारमार्थिक सत्ता है, ट्रांसडेंटल रियलिटी, उसके बाद दूसरी प्रातिभाषिक सत्ता है और तीसरी व्यवहारिक सत्ता है। प्रातिभाषिक सत्ता का मतलब क्या? जैसे आकाश आपको नीला दिखता है, स्काई अपीयर्स टू बी ब्लू बट इट इज नॉट ब्लू। ये ब्लू दिखता तो है बट इट इज नॉट ब्लू इन रियलिटी। सो जो अपीयरिंग है, अपीयरिंग तो है वैसी, लेकिन रियलिटी उसके साथ नहीं है। तो जो प्रातिभाषिक सत्ता है उसके साथ हम व्यवहार नहीं कर सकते। जैसे मिराज है, मृग मरीचिका है, मिराज में क्या है, आपको पानी दिखता है, यू सी वाटर देयर, लेकिन अगर आपको रियलिटी पता है कि इट इज ओनली अपीयरेंस, कि केवल प्रतीति है, यहाँ पे पानी नहीं है, तो यू विल नॉट बी गोइंग देयर टू फेच वाटर, तो आप पानी लेने वहां नहीं जाएंगे, क्योंकि आपको मालूम है कि वहां पानी नहीं है, वो पानी जैसा दिख रहा है। तो जो प्रातिभाषिक सत्ता होती है उसके साथ हम व्यवहार नहीं कर सकते, और जो ट्रांसेंडेंटल रियलिटी है उसके साथ भी हम व्यवहार नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि इट इज वन विदाउट सेकेंड, ये अद्वितीय है, वन विदाउट सेकेंड। एकम सद विप्रा बहुधा वदंत, द रियलिटी इज वन एंड द ग्रेट वंस, द वाइज वंस कॉल्ड इट बाय डिफरेंट नेम्स। सो ब्रह्मा इज वन without second. So there is no practical behavior possible with this transcendental reality and with this appearing reality, appearance. Your behavior, your work and all your action, interaction, reaction, whatever we can say, they are possible only at the level of practical reality. जो व्यवहारिक सत्ता है उसी के साथ हम व्यवहार कर सकते हैं। तो जो आपका जीव है, जो जगत है, जो ईश्वर है, ये सब के सब क्या है? ये व्यवहारिक सत्ता है। तो ये जो बात है कि किसी के मन में अच्छा विचार आ रहा है, किसी के मन में बुरा आ रहा है, दे आर कनेक्टेड विद योर प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ, ये व्यवहारिक जीवन से संबंधित है। और भगवान ने जो गीता में ये बात बोली है वो वो ट्रांसेंडेंटल रियलिटी के अनुसार बोली है। जैसे आपको हम एक एग्जांपल दें कि समुद्र है, ओशन इज देयर, तो ओशन में बबल्स भी हैं, ओशन में वेव्स भी हैं, ठीक है ना, बबल्स भी हैं, ओशन में वेव्स भी हैं, वहां पे झाग है, फेन है, और ओशन इटसेल्फ है, बहुत बड़ा दिख रहा है आपको। लेकिन वाटर, इफ यू टेक द वाटर, द एलिमेंट विच कॉन्स्टिट्यूट्स द ओशन, तो एलिमेंट, दिस वाटर ऑफ द बबल, द वाटर ऑफ द वेव्स, द वाटर ऑफ द ओशन, आर दे डिफरेंट? दे आर नॉट डिफरेंट। पानी तो सब में एक है। तो तत्व की दृष्टि से भगवान ने बोला है कि सब मैं हूं। बुलबुले में भी पानी है, लहर में भी पानी है, समुद्र में भी पानी है, सब पानी है। लेकिन पानी आपको केवल बूंद आपको डुबो सकती है, बूंद आपको नहीं डुबो सकती है। लेकिन लहर आपको उठा के फेंक देगी, समुद्र आपको डुबो देगा। तो वो तत्व जब व्यवहारिक रूप लेता है, एक आकार लेता है, तो उसमें दूसरा जो गुण आ जाता है कि व्यवहारिक दृष्टि से वो अपने एक्शन को अंजाम देना शुरू कर देता है। तो जो आपका प्रश्न है वो व्यवहारिक है, जो भगवान ने बोला है वो पारमार्थिक दृष्टि से बोला है। जब तक यू फील दैट यू आर बॉडी माइंड कॉम्प्लेक्स, जब तक आपको, टिल यू फील दैट यू आर ए डूअर, यू आर ए वर्कर, तो यू हैव टू रीप द फ्रूट्स ऑफ योर एक्शंस। If you want to realize the truth of the Lord Krishna's statement, you have to rise above and beyond your body-mind complex, and you have to get established in the pure awareness or consciousness which we call. This is the answer to your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, and I can see one more raised hand, Sushil Kumar. You have a question to ask? Okay, so
Yes, sir.
yes, please.
Sir, how can we believe in Prashit Karma? Because we doesn't have any idea of previous birth.
How can we believe in
Prashit Karma?
Prashit karma? I have told कि they are required when you commit something wrong and you feel guilty within you. सो प्रायश्चित मीन्स पूर्व चित्त, जैसे आपका माइंड बिफोर कमिटिंग एनी क्राइम और सिन यू वेर फीलिंग फियरलेस, यू वेर कूल एंड कॉम, यू वेर क्वाइट नेचुरल, देर वॉज नो एनी प्रॉब्लम विद इन यू, बट आफ्टर कमिटिंग ए पर्टिकुलर रॉन्ग एक्शन नाउ देर इज गिल्ट जनरेटेड विद इन यू. सो टू रिमूव दिस गिल्ट वी आर रिक्वायर्ड प्रायश्चित कर्मा. There are so many things which are wrong, which are not along the line of our ethics. Time was not permitting me. Otherwise, this philosophy of karma is based on the philosophy or theory of ethics. We are required to know the theory of ethics. What is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, what is correct and what is incorrect. Unless or until these concepts are clear to you, so you will not be able to understand these things. So Prayashchit is only for those persons who are committing something wrong.
Previous birth exists because we have not any good idea. We just give a logical satisfaction to ourselves that we something poor or rich due to our previous birth.
How
Can
will
you
नहीं, if you do not have देखिए, things which are very valuable in our life, all the things are not visible, and the reality of this universe is beyond your cause and effect chain. Everything cannot come within the realm of your intellect, your logic and your rationality. There are so many things which you cannot explain, but you can experience. So if you see all around in the society, in the family, in the country and in the world, so how will you explain the events, the circumstances, the situations which many people are living in? They are in different circumstances. What is the concept or basis of explanation with you? So unless or until you have conviction in this philosophy of karma, theory of karma and theory of rebirth, you cannot find explanation to all these things. And so far as everything should be visible, so even if things are visible, things are within the perimeter of your experience, but you cannot explain them if I ask you to explain them logically and rationally. Suppose you have taken sugar, you have taken peda, you have eaten jalebi, you have eaten gur, and if I ask you to explain the difference between the sweetness of all these things, will you be able? You simply say that you eat sugar, you will feel how sweet it is, what kind of sweetness it contains. You take jalebi, you will understand what kind of sweetness it contains. So even at the level of our sense organs, whatever experiences and perceptions we are receiving through our sense organs, we are not able to explain them properly. Only by your own experience you can understand some intricacies and some realities of this universe and life. But if you have a keen observation faculty and you see the society and the world all around, you will be finding the answers only in the theory of karma and rebirth. If we are not able to understand all these things, so this is our weakness of our intelligence, weakness of our understanding power, our capacity, our caliber. Suppose any professor is teaching you in the class, you are being taught physics or maths or mechanical engineering or anything, and some topic, some chapter is very difficult, you are not able to understand. So can you say that I do not believe in this topic is wrong, this topic is false? Topic is not false, topic is not wrong, topic is not incorrect. You lack the understanding power. Your intelligence is not so strong, so sufficient that you could understand that particular topic. So you have to raise the level of your understanding, your intelligence, your intellect, your analytical and logical capacity, so that you could comprehend the essence of that particular topic. So you have to raise your level of understanding, your level of intelligence, so that you could understand our great people and our great scriptures and our text which so many rishis have given us. These are not only intellectual speculations of our seers and our rishis. They have experimented all these truths of life within the laboratory of their own inner life. And after a deep and thorough and transparent investigations, they have given these conclusions to us. We are lucky to have such conclusions which are able to answer all our questions if you go into the deepest details of all these things.
Thank you. Sushil, I'm sure that sir has explained very nicely your queries. So, move on to the next question. I have seen Vivek Kumar, you raised your hand. Can you ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Please be brief, okay?
Hello, sir.
Ji.
Sir, we are doing a lot of work in our daily life which are completely adverse or opposite to our nature. As an example, when we are talking on a video conferencing, this is also a very bad effect on the nature. So what we have to do that are not adverse our nature, or should we leave this types of lifestyle or go to the sant like a sannyas or doing something as a daily life?
No, Swamiji has said a very good statement. If your work does not belong to your nature, it is not according to your nature, then convert your nature according to your work. Inculcate interest in whatever you are doing. We do what we love. This is a common people standpoint. We do what we love. If you have received the work you love, so you will be doing it very nicely. But the great people are those who love what they do. So you start loving what you are doing. Adjustment, adaptability, they are very important values for your practical life, for your day-to-day life. If you have not this capacity of adjusting and adapting to the situations and to the people of the society, even in your family, so you will not be able to live properly and peacefully. So you have not to run away from the society. You are telling that I should leave everything if it is adverse in nature and I should go to jungle to become a sannyasi. So you will carry your mind there also. How can you expect that you will go to the Himalayas, you go to that forest and become sannyasi and then you will be peace and you will be peaceful and you will be calm? Your mind is with you. It will create havocs there also. So sannyasa means dedicate your work. I have already told the dedication of your work to the feet of God. And you think that you are expressing the will of God. You do not have your own desires, your own ambitions. Whatever ambition is there, that is the will of God and I am fulfilling it. So convert your mind according to your work. Change your interest according to your work. Adjust with it, adapt to it. This is the solution.
Thanks, sir. Yes. Shobhik Nath, is it possible to unmute him? He's requesting for a long time, but he can't unmute himself. So is it possible to unmute Shobhik Nath? Okay.
Mute yourself. Obi?
Okay.
Sorry, we can't get through you, but then there are many other students who have raised their hand. It's not possible, as I've already told you. So we'll just take the last question for the session. I can see Ratundip Kumar has also raised his hand. Ratundip, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Sir, can I ask question in Hindi?
Yes, you can ask.
सर आई वांट टू सर हम एक भगत सिंह का एक कोट करना चाहेंगे सर, वो जो बोले हैं
जी
कि यदि एक सर्वशक्तिमान ईश्वर है तो उसने ऐसा दुनिया क्यों बनाया कि यहाँ दुख तकलीफ से पूरा भरा हुआ है दुनिया, और अगर यह उसका नियम है या फिर कोई लीला है जो वो करते हैं तो वो रोम के नीरो से कैसे अलग हैं जो कि जिन्होंने रोम को जलाया था, और मतलब पूरा दुनिया इस तरह से अगर दुख तकलीफ में रहते हैं तो।
देखिए ये जो दुनिया की बात है ना कि जो हमारा वेदांत है ना वो अल्टीमेटली तो बोलता है, अल्टीमेटली जो ट्रुथ है, ये मैंने आपको अभी बोला कि प्रैक्टिकल दृष्टिकोण से, व्यवहारिक दृष्टि से ये सारी चीज़ें हैं, लेकिन अल्टीमेटली अगर हम देखें तो ईश्वर ने दुनिया बनाई ही नहीं, उसकी माया ने दुनिया बनाई है। ये भक्ति की दृष्टि से आंसर अगर हम दें तो ये माया जो ईश्वर की त्रिगुणात्मिका माया है और पंचभूता जो प्रकृति है, 5 एलिमेंट्स ऑफ नेचर है, अर्थ है, वाटर है, एटसेट्रा, ये 5 एलिमेंट्स और आपके त्रिगुण, सतोगुण, रजोगुण, तमोगुण, कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ दिस हैज क्रिएटेड द वर्ल्ड। एंड इंडिविजुअल जो आपका वर्ल्ड है, इंडिविजुअल वर्ल्ड जो है वो आपने अपने कर्मों से बनाया है। आपकी जो दुनिया है वो आपने अपने कर्मों से बनाई। 3 तरह के जगत हमारे यहाँ माने गए हैं वेदांत में। एक ईश्वर सृष्टि, तो ईश्वर जो सृष्टि करता है अपनी माया शक्ति से करता है, खुद उसमें इन्वॉल्वमेंट उसका नहीं। दूसरा एक ब्रह्मा की सृष्टि है और तीसरा जीव की सृष्टि है। तो जीव की जो सृष्टि है वही बाधक है, उसी ने सारी प्रॉब्लम्स पैदा किया है। ईश्वर की सृष्टि में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, पृथ्वी से, आकाश से, जल से, वायु से और इवन त्रिगुणों से आपको कोई परेशानी नहीं होती। तीनों गुणों की जरूरत है, इन सारी चीज़ों की हमें ज़रूरत है, ठीक है ना। और जो आपको ये शरीर और ये जो माइंड, ये सब कुछ आपके प्रीवियस कर्मों के हिसाब से आपको जो मिला, ये जो ब्रह्मा की सृष्टि है, जो आपको जो शरीर दिया गया, ये भी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। सारी प्रॉब्लम आपके कर्मों से है। जो इंडिविजुअल एक्शंस आपने डूअरशिप के तहत, अपने डिजायर्स के तहत किए हैं, उनके द्वारा सारी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, ठीक है ना। तो और वेदांत का जो हाईएस्ट एंगल है वो तो कहता है कि सृष्टि नाम की कोई चीज़ है ही नहीं। वो तो कहते हैं सर्वम खलविदम ब्रह्म, ब्रह्म सत्यम जगत मिथ्या। तो शंकराचार्य का जो स्टैंड है वो तो कहते हैं कि कुछ है ही नहीं, जैसे आप कहते हैं ना रस्सी में सांप, तो ये एक क्लासिकल एग्जाम्पल दिया जाता है। तो वास्तव में रस्सी में सांप कहाँ है? वहां तो केवल रस्सी ही रस्सी है, सांप का तो केवल हमें भ्रम हो रहा है। मतलब सर्प तो वहां एक अपीयरेंस मात्र है, प्रतीति केवल दिख रहा है, वहां है ही नहीं। तो जब आप हाईएस्ट फिलॉसफी के एंगल से देखेंगे तो जगत केवल दिख रहा है, जगत है ही नहीं, इट इज ओनली ए मेंटल कंसेप्ट। तो जो भगत सिंह का कहना है वो व्यवहार की दृष्टि है, और सारी प्रॉब्लम्स के मूल में देखो व्यक्ति होता है, इंडिविजुअल होता है, और हम अपने कर्मों के द्वारा जो परिस्थिति पैदा करते हैं, परेशानियां पैदा करते हैं, उनके लिए फिर हम ईश्वर को दोषी बनाना शुरू कर देते हैं। यू आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर योर एक्शंस एंड फॉर योर फ्रूट्स, योर पेरेंट्स आर नॉट रिस्पॉन्सिबल। सो टेक द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ओवर योर सोल्जर्स।
जिस धर्म में सर पूर्ण जन्म का थ्योरी नहीं है, उस जन्म के लिए आप क्या कहेंगे सर?
अब वो उन्हीं से यू शुड आस्क दिस क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम देम। आवर थ्योरी एंड आवर फिलॉसफी इज वेरी साउंड, वी आर सेटिस्फाइड विद आवर फिलॉसफी एंड थ्योरी। देखिए, वन थिंग आई वुड लाइक टू से कि आप अपने लेवल को, हमारे जो गुरु थे वेदांत के, ही वॉज ए ग्रेट सेंट एंड ही वॉज ए वेरी इंटेलेक्चुअल सेंट। तो उनसे एक बार मैंने ऐसे ही बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस व्हाट यू आर आस्किंग टुडे, ये सब प्रश्न मैं उनसे पूछ चुका हूँ। 10,000 questions I have written in my diary, and I have got answers to 10,000 questions connected with life, philosophy, psychology, etc. So those questions which you have asked, they are already covered within those 10,000s. So these questions are not new to me. तो उन्होंने एक चीज हमें बोला, उन्होंने कहा कभी भी डाउट के साथ शास्त्र के पास मत जाओ, शंका लेके मत जाओ, जिज्ञासा लेके जाओ। You should approach your guru and approach your scriptures and books and text with a desire to know. Don't approach there to examine them. Don't approach there with a suspicious mind, a doubtful mind. Otherwise, you will not generate Shraddha. You will not generate belief and trust in them. So, Sansaya Atma Vinashyati. For a doubtful mind, there is no any world. He perishes. This is what Lord Krishna says. हमें ये सोचना है कि हम क्यों नहीं समझ पा रहे, क्यों नहीं समझ पा रहे इस कंसेप्ट को। पहले आप उस कंसेप्ट को समझने का प्रयास करिए। देखो, जिसको कंप्लीट रियलिटी, कंप्लीट ट्रुथ पता होता है, वही आपको सारी चीजें एक्सप्लेन कर सकता है। अब भगत सिंह, ठीक है, ही वॉज ए ग्रेट पैट्रियट, जिस फील्ड में उन्होंने काम किया देशभक्ति के लिए, देश के लिए, वो बहुत ही प्रेजवर्दी, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं। लेकिन ही कैन नॉट बिकम शंकराचार्य, because he is not the acharya of Advait Vedanta. He cannot teach you Panini Vyakaran. He cannot teach you civil engineering. So जिस फील्ड में हमारा दखल नहीं है, जिस फील्ड के हम विशेषज्ञ और पूर्णज्ञ नहीं है, हम उस फील्ड में क्वेश्चंस तो बहुत उठा सकते हैं। तो आपको जब क्वेश्चंस आपने उठाया, तो जो आंसर आपका गुरु और आपके जो ग्रंथ हैं, जो स्क्रिप्चर्स हैं, बुक्स हैं, जो आंसर्स वो दे रहे हैं, तो यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट देम एंड फर्दर यू ट्राई टू नो कि इसमें हमें कहाँ डिफिकल्टी आ रही, कहाँ प्रॉब्लम आ रही, कौन सी चीज है जो हम नहीं समझ पा रहे हैं, तो यू अगेन आस्क दैट। लेकिन आउटराइट हम रिजेक्ट कर दें कि आई डू नॉट बिलीव दिस इन दिस फिलॉसफी, आई डू नॉट बिलीव इन दैट फिलॉसफी, तो बाई डिसबिलीविंग philosophies will not change. Somebody says, I do not believe there is sun in the world. So by his disbelieving the sun would cease to exist. It will remain there, whether you believe or not.
Sir, I'm sorry I can't take in any more questions, but as you can see from the response received from the students, they have been really motivated and inspired by your talk. Thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule and imparting such valuable information and guidance to all of us present in this occasion, especially for our students. Thank you so much, sir, from the entire IST faculty. We express our gratitude. Thank you very much.
Thank you.